The boy tries to cut the meat but realizes it's too tough. He remembers his past life as a mercenary, known as the Sword Demon, and that, with his former strength, he would have cut that meat easily. Now, however, he can't. The boy recalls that in his previous life, full of violence, he died and was reincarnated as a child. Because of the memories from that past life, he can't control his strength. His two brothers, Leonardo and Alan, play around with him, saying he no longer acts like a violent brother and tease him, but he replies that he will punch them well. Their father consoles the boy, saying it's not that bad. He remembers another sword master, Breeze, who had similar problems. One of the guests jokes that Breeze used to eat even the plate, showing how energetic he was. The boy smiles and avoids talking about his past mistakes, trying not to worry his father. The boy remembers that in his past life, while running through the battlefield, a young king had just been crowned Kilpus Oldingham, who is now his father in this life. He thinks about how the king, despite being refined and polite, has a habit of looking down on others, which was common among nobles at the time, even knights. The boy criticizes this behavior and laments that even royalty has come to this point. Queen Alina asks everyone to eat together in harmony. The boy and his brothers complain that defending the country wasn't worth so much effort, but the mother scolds them, saying it's not good to speak that way. The father says that in a family, they should help, not fight. The boy admits his mother is kind, but considers her the most annoying person in his life. Even his older brothers respect her. The boy tells his mother he wants to learn how to use a sword. She reacts dramatically, saying she will never allow it because royalty don't need to use swords, and if he gets hurt, she would die. He thinks his mother is very caring but borderline annoying. The boy was ordered to learn swordsmanship and, with much effort, got a noble private instructor. Despite this, his hands and heart remember his past life as a swordsman on the battlefield. During training, he gets frustrated and thinks this doesn't feel like a child's lesson, suspecting his mother is involved. The boy expresses his desire to train with a sword. He feels bored, like a bird trapped in a cage. His mother finds him adorable and sits beside him. The boy feels happy when his mother goes to attend her royal duties. A man appears and suggests that if he wants to use a sword, he should hide his identity and enroll in the Knights Academy, a boarding school for young aspiring knights. He is surprised by the idea. The boy hears that the Knights Academy was founded that year and that the sword is an important part of the curriculum. His brothers mock him, saying they'll be happy not to see their pathetic brother's face anymore and that he might use the sword like a barbarian. Despite their teasing about his inability to cut the meat, he accepts the idea and decides to go to the school. Meanwhile, royal studies continue at the palace, and until then, royalty did not attend school. The boy thinks that with this decision, he won't have to see the stupid faces of his brothers or pretend to be nice to them. The boy reacts in despair when he learns that if he joins the Knights Academy, he will be away from the palace for almost 10 years, from elementary to high school. The mother insists, but the father also orders him to go to the academy. The father tells the boy he doesn't want him to become like his brothers and that the closed palace environment corrupted them. He admits it will be difficult to hide his identity and train hard outside. The father tells the story of the swordmaster Breeze, who was mocked for not belonging to any school and was called the reincarnation of a beast crawling on the ground, licking mud and devouring corpses. But despite the criticism, he saved the country. The father asks the boy to become a man like Master Breeze. The boy thinks he already is the sword master from his past life. He remembers that, despite looking different, no one recognizes that he is Breeze, the sword master who destroyed old rigid forms of fencing and saved the country, though misunderstood by the nobility. His mother says it's better if he doesn't know about that. The father says he thinks everyone in the country should live like Master Breeze because that strengthens the nation. He comments that's why he is building many statues of him. The boy asks him to stop increasing Breeze's statues around the country. The scene shows it is spring in the capital, Galliant. The boy decides to take the entrance exam for the Royal Knights Academy in the academic city of Rein. The mother worries about the danger and wants to assign a bodyguard to him, but he refuses, saying if they reveal his royal status, he will be targeted by everyone. The mother asks him to return immediately if he has difficulties. The school building is shown, where students of various ages, social classes, and genders study since the system covers elementary to high school. The boy has to enter the elementary level at the school and starts with a written exam. When he tries to quit, the examiner reprimands him, saying it's his job to filter out children who see the world too lightly. The examiner gets irritated with the boy but confirms that only those who move well will pass. He announces the next practical test and calls students to face it one by one. The boy watches the judge and prepares himself. The boy notices a serious and determined woman wearing glasses, who seems to be an important figure at the school or in the exam. The boy gets nervous and wonders if the woman noticed he is royal. He sees she is watching him and thinks she reminds him of someone, but more importantly, something he can't explain directly. The examiner calls the boy next and notices his attitude has changed a lot. Someone else comments that it's obvious he's trying to impress the woman. The examiner also says he heard the boy is from a baron's family. The examiner says he doesn't know the boy's family and thinks they might be local lords from a border region, since he knows most nobles in the capital. He shows dislike and taunts the boy, telling him to attack however he wants. The boy realizes the woman wants to humiliate him in front of everyone and clearly feels her intention. The instructor introduces himself as Lawrence Givry, from the primary department, and explains his family is from the capital, so the boy may not know him. He says he is a true knight who has practiced noble fencing since childhood and is confident in his skills, which is why he is an instructor. The boy replies that he shouldn't underestimate him, but would like to use a real sword as soon as possible. The instructor says that in that case, he won't be gentle. The instructor provokes the boy, asking if he is scared because he is a knight of justice. He says he will give the boy an advantage and asks if he prefers to leave before getting hurt. The boy thinks this is no game, and his desire to fight won't be satisfied here. The instructor comments that the boy's stance doesn't look like noble fencing, maybe rural fencing. He warns it's no joke and that if he passes, he will learn true noble fencing. The boy stays silent, and the instructor calls him an idiot. The instructor is shocked to hear the word idiot and challenges the boy to repeat it. The boy responds with a smile, saying they're going to have some fun. He thinks he has left the castle and capital and no longer needs to pretend. The boy charges with impressive speed, catching the instructor off guard and landing a direct hit on his face, leaving everyone in shock. With a single precise and fast move, the boy strikes the instructor with such force that he is thrown far away, completely knocked out. The boy holds the sword easily and comments that this was much easier than cutting the meat on his plate. Meanwhile, the woman with glasses watches and recognizes his sword style, finding it familiar. Elemi, the third prince, has the memories of his past life as Breeze, the sword master, a feared warrior on the battlefield. Now, hiding his true identity, he enrolled in the Royal Cavalry Academy exam and easily defeated an annoying instructor during the practical test. Even recognizing that the boy was excellent in theory and practice, the evaluator states that he lacks the spirit of a knight. He says the boy's behavior went too far and, for that reason, cannot allow him into the academy. In the dormitory, Elemi realizes he used too much force again and remembers breaking 5 ribs of instructor Lawrence. He is surprised by the fragility of current knights and embarrassed for not being accepted into the academy after promising to graduate with honors. Considers going on a journey to avoid returning to the castle. Elemi decides he will travel, thinking the absence of 1 or 2 princes won't make a difference to the country. When he tries to talk to the woman who shares the dorm, she ignores him, says she is busy, and only wishes him good night. The previously observed girl is shown in focus. Her serious expression and imposing posture suggest she has an important role and authority, hiding something deeper behind her reserved behavior. Elemi recognizes the woman's face and feels she reminds him of someone. When he tries to explain he already knows about his rejection from the academy, she interrupts, introduces herself as an instructor, and says she came to fetch him personally, calling him by number and name. Hearing the woman's voice, Elemi has a memory from his past life as Breeze. He recalls that few people followed him on the battlefield, and one was a small and fragile figure, someone who followed him like a puppy, amid the chaos of war. The woman introduces herself as Lili Utuka, the new instructor of the advanced section of the cavalry school. Upon hearing her name, Elemi immediately recognizes her as his last disciple from his past life, surprised to see her again. Lili asks to be called Sensei Ituka, which Elemi accepts. She comments to herself on how much he has grown, remembering when he was a crying little boy. Then, she orders him to pack his things because she will take him to the cavalry school dormitories. Upon arriving at the female dormitory, Elemi is surrounded by several older girls who find him adorable. He feels uncomfortable and confused, questioning why he was brought to the girls' dormitory. Even knowing men are forbidden there, he wonders if his size or appearance caused some misunderstanding. The girls start doubting Elami's gender and suggest checking, but Lily protects him and sends the curious ones away. Then she orders everyone back to their rooms. Still confused, Elami asks why he was brought to the school even though he was supposedly rejected, and also why he is in the girls' dorm. Lily, impatient, just repeats that he must call her Sensei. Lily explains that although Elami was not accepted into the primary division, he was admitted directly into the advanced division of the school because of his excellent grades and extraordinary physical abilities. This happened because, having memories of a past life, Elami possesses knowledge and skills that surpass those of other children. She also admits that she took him to the girls' dormitory by mistake, since, until recently, she thought Elami was a girl. Elami discovers that his registration at the academy was changed to female, which is why he was placed in the girls' dorm. The person responsible was his mother, who altered the form on purpose to embarrass him. Since there are no vacancies in the boys' dormitory and he entered as a special case, his only chance to change rooms would be if a male student died or left, which would leave a story behind in the room. With no other choice, Elami accepts the situation to avoid being left without a place to stay. As he sighs, Elami catches the attention of a woman, who carefully observes his gestures. She says that his way of sighing reminds her of someone who used to sigh the same way. Then she reveals she's talking about Bryce, the legendary swordsman, suggesting a direct connection between the two. Elami confirms that Bryce, the legendary swordsman, is himself. He recognizes that Lily also knows this because she knows his past life, just as he knows hers. Still, he feels embarrassed that she now sees him so weak. He remembers how she followed him on the battlefield like a little puppy, imitating his moves and fighting to survive. Even after losing her master, Lily kept moving forward. While Elami reflects on this, a sudden doubt arises. How did he die in his past life? He doesn't remember. The conversation shifts to a lighter tone as they talk about the dormitories, and he comments that Lily grew up watching him, but to him, she will always be just a disciple. Still, he admits that now, she would be more his type than younger girls, though his heart belongs to an old soul. While Lily tries to get called sensei by the students, Elami asks if she's made any friends, and she replies that she met the girls the day before. Lily comments that she became famous for her battles against the Republic, to the point where the king wanted to name her the second legendary sword. However, she refused, saying she's still far from reaching Breeze. Elami, surprised, thinks to himself that she kept fighting even after his death, despite being underestimated for being a woman. Elami is impressed by how many achievements Lily had after his death. Lily explains that she retired from the army after the peace treaty with the Republic to avoid becoming a celebrity. Even so, the king insisted she train the new generation, which is why she ended up at the school. Elami feels sorry, thinking his disciple is suffering, while Lily says the story of her transfer spread as a rumor, explaining why everyone already knew her. Upon arriving, some students greet her enthusiastically. Elami is taken to his new room in the girls' dormitory, which is decorated extremely cutely, with many stuffed animals and a delicate style. He watches, surprised by the luxurious and well-equipped environment, noting how the girls' dorm seems fully equipped from the start. Elami is shocked to discover the room he was assigned actually belongs to Ituka. She clarifies that all the things there are hers and informs him that from that day on, they will live together in the same room as master and disciple. The third prince, Elami, who carries memories of his past life as the legendary swordsman Breeze, is admitted directly to the advanced division of the cavalry school. There, he reunites with his former disciple, Lily, who is now his instructor. Despite needing to hide his true identity, Elami finds himself involved again in training and conflicts, as his new life crosses paths with echoes of the past. Elami panics, realizing he will have to share the same room with his former disciple, Lily, thinking the situation is completely wrong. A student tries to disqualify Elami, alleging he cheated on the exam. Another protests that it's wrong for a boy to share a room with a woman, especially one who is both a student and a teacher. But Lily intervenes, stating that he will stay in her room anyway. Since all other rooms were occupied, the director agrees, and Elami has no choice but to accept. Elami firmly refuses to share the room with Lily, but realizes he has no other viable option. Meanwhile, Lily observes how much he has changed since their past life, now grown and different from the fragile little girl she once took in. Elami asks if Lily is married, and she denies it, insisting he call her Instructor Ituka. He questions the logic of not being able to call her by name if she isn't married. Lily says it would be inappropriate to live with a man, but softens the tone, saying it wouldn't be strange if he were her son. Elemi is shocked to be treated as a possible son, while inwardly complaining that she's gotten old from wasting time at war, instead of marrying. Elemi tries to assert his masculinity and asks if Lily isn't bothered sharing a room with him. She responds coldly that she can easily handle someone like him. Elemi gets frustrated and says her comments hurt him. Meanwhile, Lily misunderstands his concern, thinking he's talking about marriage and thanks him, but only sees him as a child. Lily reveals she is 25 years old, saying that to someone like Elemi, she must seem old. Irritated, he replies he's older but quickly tries to maintain an adult composure, claiming he never saw her as a woman. Lily just tells him to wash his face and go to sleep, treating everything naturally while Elemi tries to hide his embarrassment. Elemi warns Lily not to overdo it, saying without sleep she won't get stronger no matter how much she trains. Hearing this, Lily recalls how Breeze, her old master, used to say exactly the same thing. These words awaken a strong and silent memory within her. Confused about his situation, Elemi comments that Lily is a mature 25-year-old woman, while he looks like a 10-year-old child, despite memories of another life. Realizing what he said, he tries to backtrack and asks to forget it. Lily responds with a yes, no, leaving Elemi even more confused. The scene ends with him watching her quietly as she calmly gets ready in the room. Lily recalls the intense teachings of her old master, who always encouraged her never to stop, to keep fighting, watching, learning, and surviving at any cost. His firm and direct words echo in her mind. Even in pain or against a powerful enemy, the important thing is to keep fighting until your blade hits the target, and above all, survive. Lily reflects on her old master's legacy, remembering that despite criticism and ridicule, all the disciples he trained survived. Even if considered unconventional methods, they saved many lives. This thought deeply touches her, leading her to silently thank that she survived too. Elemi, holding a stuffed animal, comments that if Lily liked those things, she could have asked him for one in his past life. When told to move a little on the bed, he thinks sadly that maybe he took too much from her life, even her chance to marry, since all he gave her was a sword. Lily corrects him, asking him to move too, not just the stuffed animal. Elemi, surprised and somewhat moved, asks if that's all right. Lily warns that space is tight and Elemi will have to bear it until another bed arrives. When she suggests he sleep in the middle, Elemi panics, thinking they'll sleep together. Lily, unfazed, tells him not to worry and calmly reveals she likes cute things while Elemi is surrounded by stuffed animals. Irritated at being treated like something cute, Elemi rebels and decides to sleep on the floor. Later, during the night, Lily finds him sleeping there and picks him up in her arms. He wakes startled and apologizes, thinking he disturbed her. Lily, calm, asks if she woke him, showing she was just taking care of him. Lily insists Elemi sleep beside her because she doesn't want to leave him on the floor and risk him getting sick. Despite his objections, she doesn't give in and firmly carries him. Hearing the proposal, Elemi gets embarrassed and reacts nervously, accusing her of being indecent and saying he doesn't remember teaching her to act like that. Lily, on the other hand, humorously recalls that when she was young, she used to say exactly the same thing. Lily continues explaining that the man who took her in that night just gave her a bath, clean clothes, and a warm place to sleep all out of kindness, with no second intentions. Hearing this, Elemi remembers and realizes that man was himself in his past life, Breeze. Elemi realizes that in the past, he was the one who took in Lily. Embarrassed, he admits that Breeze, his former self, was rude and tactless, only focused on the battlefield. Lily, however, never said it was Breeze, but confirms she suspected because of his personality. Despite the confusion, she acknowledges that even though he was rough, he helped her with good intentions. Lily firmly states she was Breeze's last disciple, and that because of that, she will do the same for Elemi. She assures him not to worry, because she understands his insecurities and doubts, and that all he received in the past was just a gesture of kindness. While Lily and Elemi rest together, she comments that he and Breeze are very similar, both impulsive and clumsy. Lily believes her old master would have preferred that she give up the sword and live a peaceful life. Elemi, in turn, says he would like to spend more time like this with her, for years, or even forever. Watching Elemi sleep, Lily reflects on her past with Breeze. She says she never cared about formalities and would have accepted any path, marriage, or just being treated like a daughter. To her, both were like a sword without form. On the other side, Elemi is frustrated for not remembering his death and wonders if Breeze thought of her in his final moments. Lily remembers Breeze sadly, wishing he had lived longer. Even though their relationship had no label, she just wanted to be by his side. She chased that distant past but never managed to reach it. Now, all that remains is the memory and longing for someone who is gone forever. Lily vents alone, saying she doesn't need a husband or children because all she wanted was to be with Breeze, even if not his wife or daughter. Meanwhile, the boy, overhearing these words by chance, feels he shouldn't listen to them, as they belong to a feeling that is not his. Still, he is affected by the pain contained in them. Lily cries, remembering that all she ever wanted was to be part of Breeze's family. In a flashback, he says with a smile that she, the other boys, and himself are all one family, welcoming her kindly. This memory warms her heart, reinforcing how important Breeze was to her. The boy cries silently, feeling helpless. He accepts that he is no longer Breeze and can do nothing for Lily. With a heavy heart, he makes a plea to the heavens, that her memories of him be erased and that, if God exists, she will be happy. A new character appears smiling, and the scene reveals a large school. With enthusiasm, she announces the start of classes. At the same time, we see a rigorous training taking place, where a student is knocked down with a direct hit, showing that the routine at the school will be intense. At nightfall, the girl sits excitedly on a high point of the building, watching the school lit by the moon. With a confident smile and energetic posture, she announces that everything begins tomorrow, indicating enthusiasm and anticipation for what is to come. The boy, visibly embarrassed, is surprised during a stretch when the girl enters the room. She watches silently, with a calm expression and a slight discomfort in her eyes. During a conversation about Breeze, the boy is startled and begins to hiccup. The girl asks if he is okay, and he tries to hide it, saying it's just a hiccup. She suggests a strange method to stop it, while he questions the connection she is making between him and Breeze. While watching the boy's stretches, the girl asks if they are the same ones Breeze used to do. He confirms and mentions having read about it in a book but can't remember the name. She comments that as the last disciple, she follows his teachings. However, when he imitates her, the girl tells him that wasn't taught, he just copied on his own. During a conversation, the girl says she sometimes sees Elemi as if he were Breeze, mainly because of the absurd way he fights. Despite the age and voice being different, the movements make him look like his last disciple. Elemi admits he is just imitating Breeze and denies any physical resemblance to him. Playfully, she asks if he could be Breeze's secret son, which annoys him while she smiles discreetly. Lily starts laughing, remembering Breeze's serious face, saying he looked like a potato. She comments that the first time she saw him, she was scared but now finds it funny. Elemi watches her laugh, surprised, and thinks it was just like the past. He notices she is really laughing, which makes him stop and think silently. Lily arrives at the classroom and draws everyone's attention with her imposing presence. The students recognize her as the Sword Saint and are surprised by her elegant appearance, calling her the warrior princess. Some say she is quite different from the image they had, expecting someone more muscular like Breeze. Meanwhile, Elemi watches quietly, thinking how she caused an impact while he lived a normal life. Lily introduces herself as the new person in charge of the class, saying she is also new and hopes to get along with everyone. Then, she presents Elemi Noi, the youngest student in the class, highlighting that his entrance to the school was due to his intelligence and physical condition, asking everyone to treat him well. Elemi decides to act arrogantly so he won't be underestimated from the start, and gets excited about the chance to prove his worth. However, when he discovers that his seat was the only one previously assigned, he protests indignantly, thinking it unfair to receive different treatment for skipping grades. Lily explains that the special seat is not a privilege, but because Elemi is short, which visibly embarrasses him. When the class sees Elemi, they all say in chorus that he is cute, which surprises and embarrasses him. A female student even recommends he drink milk every day to grow, which irritates him, making him shout that he doesn't need that kind of advice. Elemi focuses on studying, even with memories of his past life, because he wants to avoid suspicion. While reviewing, he politely greets a classmate who approaches with a smile, trying to make a good impression. A girl approaches Elemi with a confident smile and invites him to be her partner, keeping the reason secret. She acts mysteriously and excitedly, saying no one else knows yet, leaving Elemi curious and confused. The girl secretly reveals to Elemi that there is a new project called Dungeon Curriculum, not yet implemented in other schools. The official goal is to eliminate monsters and protect the surrounding area. Elemi is surprised that this is official information, and she praises him for catching on quickly, saying it's expected from someone who skipped grades. The concept of dungeon conquest was originally reserved for knights, as the risk was extreme amateurs could be killed instantly. Old cases showed that powerful monsters, like dragons, could destroy entire nations after having their treasures stolen. Since then, it became standard practice to avoid touching treasures and seal entrances to keep intruders out, as difficulty varies with the strength of monsters found. While talking to the girl, Elemi starts to believe the dungeon curriculum might really be true, since it was hidden even in official manuals, which lends credibility to the information. He finds it strange that such a dangerous task would be entrusted to students, but considers that maybe the Knight Academy has high standards or lacks experienced knights. Despite the dangers, dungeons are explored because they contain relics, legendary tactical books, advanced magic, and rare minerals, all having great value for national progress. Elemi declines the girl's offer to team up, saying he prefers to act alone so he won't be a burden. He admits he already expected to end up alone, even if it's sad, because he believes he would just be a nuisance to others. The girl insists Elemi be her partner, praising his skills and mentioning he defeated an instructor in the practical exam. Despite his complaints and denial of the rumor, she enthusiastically grabs him, saying he's perfect to be her partner. Elemi, surprised, realizes she is being very logical in her arguments. Elemi senses something strange coming from the girl and suspects her intentions. He thinks she might be acting cute or silly just to manipulate him, which makes him decide to keep his distance. Elemi confronts the girl, suspecting her intentions and stating she is still hiding something. She tries to argue there's a benefit in teaming up, but Elemi's intense expression shows he's not convinced. The girl keeps pressing Elemi, saying he is still hiding something. He thinks she doesn't know about his true identity as the reincarnation of the sacred swordsman. Still, she confronts him with an intense smile, clearly expecting an answer, even if he prefers not to say it out loud. Elemi reveals he is from the royal family but doesn't want it to spread to avoid problems at school. He explains he came to improve his skills in a tough environment without receiving special treatment. Despite reluctance, he finally agrees to form a team with the girl. After agreeing to team up, the girl tries to get closer and introduces herself excitedly, saying she remembered him because he is her type. Elemi reacts coldly, saying he's still just a kid and has no sensuality. The atmosphere becomes relaxed with light teasing between them. During the introduction, the girl reveals her name as Miku Ornheim, which surprises Elemi. He quickly recognizes the surname and asks if she is Mardo Ornheim's granddaughter, showing surprise and implying the name carries great weight or importance. Elemi discovers Miku is the daughter of Mardo Ornheim, a renowned general who commands a fortress city on the border. Known as the Fierce General, Mardo personally leads mysterious mages and elite knights, being a legendary figure. Elemi is surprised by all this information and by the fact that Mardo, already elderly, has such a young daughter. Miku decides to call Elemi El-Tun, which makes him uncomfortable, especially thinking she might be older than she looks. He agrees to be called just El, but Miku keeps teasing and says she will affectionately call him Puppy, leaving Elemi visibly annoyed by the nickname. Elemi and Miku end the conversation with a handshake. Elemi walks away thinking about the danger of his secret being discovered so quickly. In the hallway, he is approached by another mysterious student, and he reacts suspiciously, asking what he wants. A new student confronts Elemi in the hallway, asking why he suddenly looks so irritated. The boy confirms his name, making it clear he already knew who Elemi was. The older boy pushes Elemi against the wall, demanding to know what he talked about with Miku. Elemi pretends not to understand, but the other reveals he saw them talking secretly in the classroom, clearly suspicious of their interaction. Elemi avoids answering directly about the conversation with Miku, saying it's a secret between them and fears retaliation. The other boy insists on understanding their relationship, suggesting a possible romance, but Elemi changes the subject sarcastically, saying he's only 10 years old and denies any romantic involvement. Elemi gets irritated by the older boy's comments, who treats him like a child, and says he's not interested in romantic matters of someone so young. Elemi thinks it's strange to look like a child but act like an adult. Soon after, he starts suspecting the boy's intentions, Maybe he heard about Lawrence's defeat, or about the school's special curriculum, or maybe he is interested in Miku. Meanwhile, the boy asks Elami's name, starting a more direct dialogue. The boy introduces himself as Void. When asked about his surname, he says he has none. Unlike most nobles at the school, he reveals he came from the poor alleys of Elva, not even knowing his parents' faces. The city of Elva is a tourist coastal area, with beautiful and busy coastal zones. However, inside the city, there are degraded and dangerous slums. The inequality is so big that unknown organizations have emerged, fostering dark activities. Elva is described as a place where the intense light in front hides an even denser darkness in the back, making it a symbol of the world's darkness. Void reveals he grew up in an orphanage called Scale, but since leaving it, he no longer answers to that surname. He is straightforward, saying he had no parents but was not exactly alone either. The boy who questioned him realizes Void might be more talented than he seems. The Royal Knights School accepts students from all social classes, but it's still rare to see a commoner passing. The other boy tries to end the conversation but is called clever for trying to change the subject. Void approaches Noi, grabs his shoulder, and seriously warns him to be careful with Miku Ornheim. He says he doesn't care what they were talking about but gives advice like an older brother, showing he sees danger in getting involved with the girl. Tired, Noi decides to rest but realizes he hasn't received the room key and goes to the teacher's lounge. On the way, he bumps into Miku, who surprises him with a tight and excited hug. Miku accuses Noi of improper behavior for being on the teacher's only floor and for suddenly hugging her. Noi tries to justify himself, explaining that he shares the room with Lily, but she remains suspicious and questions what he is really doing there, since there are no student dorms on that floor. Miku says she saw Noi near a teacher's room and suspected something, deciding to follow him. Noi tries to explain it was a coincidence. Still, she hugs him again, says he will be welcome to visit her, and promises not to tell anyone. Noi gets confused by her unpredictable behavior and is surprised he didn't notice he was being followed. Noi realizes his attempt to justify himself may have made him look even more suspicious to others. The next day, during a school activity, students gather to choose their weapons, while the instructor explains that any object can become a weapon, citing a legendary swordsman as an example. During the weapon selection, the instructor talks about the importance of learning various combat styles, mentioning the swordsman Blaze, who used anything as a weapon. She encourages the students to find a weapon that suits them. While some choose elegant swords like the rapier, Noi watches skeptically, thinking that the reality of the battlefield is very different from appearances. Noi reflects that the real battlefield is brutal and merciless, where life is violently taken and survival requires more than refined techniques. Many who start with noble fencing end up trading their weapons for double-edged swords, facing monsters like wild beasts. For him, true strength goes beyond traditional fencing. It's raw violence, something much fiercer and deadlier. While nobles choose rapiers for being refined weapons, Void opts for an unusual dagger called the Bundy dagger. He believes practical experience is essential before facing a real war, and looks with some disdain at the predictable choices of others. His decision catches Noi's attention, who observes everything with interest. Void chooses the Bundy dagger, a short and sturdy weapon, ideal for someone who fights as if punching. Meanwhile, the girl picks a rapier, and Main Gauche set a logical choice for someone of nobility, balancing elegance and strategy with a reliable backup weapon in case of breakage. While one boy chooses a katana, a difficult weapon to handle, and draws attention for his boldness, Void watches silently, finding it curious. Elton hasn't decided on his weapon yet, receiving suggestions and concerns from classmates who consider his size and inexperience. Elton realizes he needs to decide quickly what weapon to use. Although he prefers big swords or a katana, he recognizes that his current body isn't built like before, and opts for something lighter and more practical. He chooses a weapon with shorter reach but more suited to his size and style. Elton picks his weapons, a gladius for cutting and a stiletto for stabbing. Even though he acknowledges the difficulty of using both at once, he is excited and determined to master them according to his own fighting style. All the students finish choosing their weapons. Elton goes for the gladius and stiletto, the girl uses a rapier with a dagger, another boy chooses a large curved dagger, and the last one takes a katana. Each one shows they are ready for training. Instructor Itoika ends the class and warns that the formal curriculum will start the next day, recommending everyone rest. Soon after, A student stands up and asks to know more about the lesson content. She looks at him intrigued, asking Hui Island. The instructor recognizes the student as the foreign student, Ryoka Ujin, and confirms his name. He answers respectfully, saying it's an honor. Elton recognizes Ryoka as the student who chose the katana. Ryoka shows respect, saying it's an honor to have his name remembered by a renowned instructor like Lily Atuka, known to be on the level of a true sword saint. Lily, however, looks uncomfortable with the compliment and says she doesn't have enough skill to be compared to the real sword saint, Breeze. When Ryoka tries to ask about the curriculum content, Lily refuses to answer, explaining she received orders from the director to keep it secret until the official start of classes. The protagonist thinks about the academy's director since the year's documents said there wouldn't be one. He deduces that, as a new knight academy, the director must be someone highly trusted and with a high military position. He suspects it might be General Orun Kaimu, but after watching his daughter's behavior, he starts to doubt maybe she is just pretending not to know. Still, the mystery remains. The students observe the foreign boy and comment on his stature, thinking he is small for his age. The protagonist also notices he is taller than him but still small for boys of the same age. During the conversation, Lily surprises the protagonist by discreetly poking him with her sword, leaving him confused. The situation is interrupted when the class resumes at the instructor Ituka's request. The instructor informs the students that they must form temporary groups of 4 people by the next day, totaling 5 groups. She suggests girls avoid forming all-girl groups because of physical strength. After class ends, the protagonist and his classmate watch Ryoka Ujin from a distance, suspicious of him. The girl comments to the protagonist about a rumor that a foreign spy infiltrated the school, which seems plausible given the academy's importance. The institution has direct links to the Order of Knights, and just graduating from there guarantees automatic entry. The protagonist counters the girl's accusation about the possible spy, saying that since she knows something not yet announced, she is even more suspicious. Ryoka also defends that a spy wouldn't have such a distinctive face. The girl, realizing the situation's reversal, changes tone and disguises it with smiles and laughter. The next day, students are taken to the northern part of the academic city of Lian. There, the instructor reveals the site prepared for the start of the formal curriculum, a dungeon. The students cheer excitedly when they realize the dungeon curriculum is real. The instructor explains the place was partially investigated by teachers and that the creatures inside are artificial, coming from a magic school affiliate. Still, she warns total safety is not guaranteed. The instructor informs that the dungeon was explored up to the 3rd floor and that an iron gate blocks access to the 4th. As the curriculum progresses, levels will be gradually unlocked. Students light their lanterns, and one comments that real creatures might exist in unexplored areas, but that shouldn't be a problem for now. The group enters the dungeon's first underground level, following together through the rocky tunnel lit by lanterns. The boy examines the environment and notices that the sound doesn't echo back, showing the space's size. He tests the echo and observes deep silence. The girl comments that despite well-kept stairs, the place seems like a natural dungeon. He agrees and explains there are 2 types of dungeons in this world. The boy explains there are 2 types of dungeons: natural ones, like caves, that house dangerous monsters but have little monetary value, and artificial ones, built by ancient civilizations, full of treasures, grimoires, and rare metals. The latter can even cause wars between nations due to their value. Despite risks, they are protected by guardians, though external monsters sometimes appear. While some students start to get scared of the dungeon, Void remains calm and confident. He asks if he can advance alone, but the instructor forbids it, warning that creatures will attack anyone who enters recklessly, and that even if they survive, they will almost certainly be injured. Void reveals he didn't form a group, saying he doesn't want to join useless people. The instructor gets annoyed with his attitude, calling him problematic. Soon after, a female student appears and clings affectionately to Void, saying she can trust him, while other classmates watch the situation surprised. The girl teases Void with an exaggerated provocation that makes him embarrassed and uncomfortable. He reprimands her, saying she crossed the line, while another classmate watches the scene shocked by her behavior. The girl keeps provoking Void playfully, threatening to reveal something compromising about him. Void gets tense, thinking that if they discover his identity as a prince, he won't be able to participate in the curriculum. Meanwhile, other students watch the scene with surprise and jealousy, thinking he is flirting. While most students have already organized into groups, 2 remain alone. The teachers observe the situation and wonder if they couldn't form groups or didn't even try. Void, bored, comments that everything is getting boring. Noticing some students are still alone, the teacher decides to reorganize groups. She announces that Void Scale and Ryoka Ujin will join Miku Oruni Kaimu and Elemi Noi. Void immediately senses trouble and tries to refuse, but it's too late. Void and Ryoka make it clear they don't want to be part of any group. Void says he isn't interested in taking care of spoiled nobles' kids, while Ryoka states he already has a good fencing level and doesn't need company. They exchange provocations, showing they can't stand each other. But before the argument worsens, the teacher intervenes firmly, warning she won't repeat the order a 3rd time. The teacher imposes her authority and ends the discussion. Void and Ryoka will be forced to join the Orenkaimu team. She makes it clear that if they don't accept, they will be barred from the activity. Surprised and upset, the 2 protest but have no choice. Lily commands respect with her presence, making even Void and Ryoka feel intimidated. Even being a former hero in another life, Void almost gets scared by the pressure she exudes. He recognizes the difference in level between them. Meanwhile, Ryoka realizes the group won't get along well and already foresees it will be a big hassle to deal with. The instructor explains that inside the dungeon, students can move in groups or alone, but the minimum group size is 4 people. It's part of the curriculum to make team decisions. She emphasizes that dangerous monsters have already been eliminated by instructors, and now only magical creatures released for testing remain. Still, she warns everyone to stay alert and watch out for each other since they won't get credit if in smaller groups, and everyone must help if someone gets hurt. The teacher announces the start of Lian dungeon exploration, setting the goal to reach the 3rd level and check the ancient characters engraved on an iron door. The mission is assigned to the first-year students of the Royal Knights Academy. Meanwhile, Void and the others reflect that at that moment, they still didn't know this simple school activity would become something much more serious. While exploring, the group encounters a huge horde of goblins. Although these monsters are weak individually, their numbers make the situation much more dangerous than expected. The boy explains that goblins don't kill from hunger but from pure violent instinct, like insects. They act in groups, hold grudges against humans, and attack them for no reason. They are impossible to communicate with, which is why they are known as a hostile race. Faced with the group's fear and disorganization, the boy takes initiative and, despite being unsure about his own voice, shouts an order firmly. Everyone in Group 1 must draw their weapons. He tries to keep control of the situation before the goblins get closer. Ryoka Ujin, reluctant at first, takes a firm stance on the battlefield. He orders the squires to advance to the front line and tells everyone to prepare their swords, surprising others with his leadership and strong voice. The squires form a defensive line, while the blond boy, sweating and with a racing heart, feels the tension of the moment. Memories of past battles come back strongly, reigniting the fighting spirit inside him. For him, this place is no longer training, it's a real battlefield. While the group holds their defensive formation, the blond boy jumps excitedly and offers to flank the enemies. Despite warnings that it's dangerous, he ignores them and moves confidently, fueled by the adrenaline of battle. Elton attacks with surprising agility, leaping over a goblin and knocking it down with a precise strike. While others watch impressed, he feels the battle adrenaline pounding strongly. Elton, out of breath and covered in blood, stares at his own sword as his heart races. He swallows hard and thinks that intense feeling wasn't strange. It was something he hadn't felt since his past life. Elton notices Ryoka is in danger, but with so many enemies around, he can't help her directly. He realizes her katana is offensive, not defensive, and continuing like that will only make him vulnerable. Thinking how easy it was to handle this with his previous body, he quietly laughs and decides to act, even aware of the risks. Elton moves through the enemies with impressive agility, dodging blows and cutting precisely. Amid the chaos, he feels his heart speed up, not from fear, but excitement. The group notices how strong Elton really is, fighting fiercely in the middle of battle. Ujin, determined to help, decides to advance despite being outnumbered to protect his comrades. He shouts orders firmly and charges with courage, proving he is much more than just an exemplary student. Elton watches Ujin fight alone and thinks it would be a waste to lose him. While Ujin resists, wishing for someone to cover his back, Elton runs to help, saying he won't let him have all the fun alone. At that moment, a new mysterious enemy appears, surprising everyone. A new ally appears, calling Ujin Honor Student, and easily defeats several enemies. He reveals he grew up in the alleys, fighting both humans and monsters, so he doesn't have refined manners. He laughs while demanding a bigger challenge, showing skill and confidence in combat. The mood lightens, even in the middle of the fight. Ujin and the new ally fight side by side, exchanging teasing remarks with smiles. Despite their different personalities, one serious and the other rebellious, they show harmony and mutual trust as they prepare to face more enemies together. Elton and Ujin's group advances in sync, confidently opening a path through the enemies. Although hastily formed, the team shows efficiency and teamwork. On the other side, other students also organize to reinforce the fight, joining forces with renewed energy. After an intense battle, the students manage to defeat almost all enemies. Watching the bodies scattered on the ground, they realize some managed to escape. After the fight, some students comment that everything seemed easier than expected. Others wonder if it was part of the test or an accident. Despite general relief, it's clear that without Ujin and Void's help, the group would have been completely defeated. The room has 3 experienced students who managed the emergency situation. However, it's clear the others only escaped by luck. While some believe it was just an accident and not part of the curriculum, others begin to think about trusting their lives to others. A female classmate declares her love for Elton excitedly, bringing a light moment. The girl insists on showing her love for Elton, even being coldly rejected. She says she won't give up until he really looks at her. Meanwhile, the group finds the stairs leading to the next floor, and Elton says they will go down. Void and Ujin argue over how to call each other, with Ujin asking to stop the honor student nickname and use real names. They agree to call each other by their true names. The girl beside them recognizes Ujin's courage and comments that he and Void seem to be the only really useful ones in the class. Void confirms he's counting on Ujin, showing respect and trust. Void praises Ujin's bravery for acting outside formation during the fight, comparing him to someone experienced. They exchange teasing and jokes, with Ujin getting annoyed when called kid. Meanwhile, the girl insists on her exaggerated love for Elton, saying she will marry him one day despite being ignored. During the conversation, Elton makes clear he's not romantically interested in Lily, despite the teasing. While some joke about the situation, Ujin tries to avoid the topic, embarrassed by not knowing how to handle such talk. It turns into light confusion, with barbs and embarrassed reactions. Void invites Ujin to visit his city and promises to show a livelier kind of fun in the alleys, but the boy declines, embarrassed. Orunkai tries to pull Void away from Elton, saying she will teach Elton herself, while Lily keeps insisting on her love declarations, leaving everyone uncomfortable. Void tries to justify himself, but Orunkai confronts him, saying that, although love is free, acting like that with a child is a serious crime in Galant. She warns him that continuing to joke around like this could jeopardize his place in the Orenkaimu family. The mood gets heavy until Ujin interrupts and tries to bring focus back to the main problem. They still haven't found the stairs to the upper floors and need to make a decision. The group debates what to do next, ruling out just waiting for rescue. They consider 2 options: carry the injured or send a small group to scout. Ujin explains that since they're on the lower levels, instructors might have trouble finding them. Void points out there are goblins and other monsters around, and time is short, especially for the injured student. They avoid acting on assumptions, even though they believe the instructor might be dealing with enemies above. Ujin suggests going with a small group to scout, assuming rescue won't come. Void scolds him for acting impulsively, saying that kind of attitude leads to death. Still, Ujin stands firm, and Elamis agrees with the proposal. Internally, Ujin is surprised he managed to fool them, thinking about how he successfully skipped grades. Void agrees with Ujin's suggestion, praising his speech while jokingly calling Elamis kid, which annoys the boy. Despite recognizing that moving the injured is risky due to the open wound, they decide on a strategy. A small team will advance, and, upon finding stairs to upper floors, everyone will return and climb together, repeating until they reach the surface. While some comment that Void seems to be putting on a tough act, others recognize he is surprisingly considerate. They recall how he jumped in to help Ujin even when surrounded by enemies, and even during the fall tried to protect others. Despite his rebellious manner, his actions show courage and selflessness. Someone even thinks that if he dropped the eccentricities, he'd be quite similar to themselves, maybe even a reincarnated soul. Void states that he is not pretending to be a bad guy. He is simply being honest with himself, unlike Orenkaimu, whom he accuses of not living sincerely. This sparks a small confrontation between the two. Meanwhile, one of the boys watches, surprised by Void's cautious and suspicious behavior toward Miku, not understanding the reason. A boy panics when asked to heal Ilga, claiming that although he comes from a family of mages, he has never learned healing magic. Still, the situation is critical, and Ilga's life hangs by a thread. Meanwhile, another character watches hopefully, wondering if that boy is capable of using any kind of magic because if possible, Ilga's chances of survival would increase greatly. The boy insists he is not a healing mage and reveals that he fled his family's magical tradition by entering the Knight's Academy, so he does not know how to use healing magic. Nevertheless, the others look at him expectantly, hoping that even without training, he can use some kind of magic. If that happens, Ilga's survival chances would greatly increase. Despite lacking confidence, the boy decides to try to save Ilga and begins to use healing magic. He attempts to create a diversion in the magical flow to ease the pain, but realizes the injury's severity is much worse than he imagined. The tissue collapse is too severe, and his magical power is insufficient to reconstruct the body. Desperate, he panics and begins to doubt himself completely. Miku calmly intervenes and suggests a different approach. Since the injured is unconscious, easing the pain is useless. Instead, she proposes using partially materialized magic to reinforce the body's tissue, functioning as artificial blood vessels. The idea is to stop trying to actually heal him and focus on preserving his life just until they can escape. Miku presses the boy, asking if he will run away again like before, making him hesitate, torn between fear and the desire to help. He thinks about the consequences of continuing to use magic to keep the injured alive, as this could leave him defenseless if enemies appear. However, he admits he does not want to abandon his comrade. Orunkaimu is asked if he can use healing magic. He replies that he only has basic knowledge, that he could perform a simple healing, but without tools, it would be impossible to do something effective. Miku praises the boy's talent and motivates him to try to use his ability. He hesitates but ends up deciding, gathering courage to try. With determination, he accepts the challenge and prepares to act. The boy named Fix begins to use his healing magic on Ilga, while the others split up. One group goes to explore and find the exit, trusting Fix to keep Ilga alive until then. While Fix continues trying to stabilize Ilga with his magic, the others form groups. One stays to protect them, while the other goes in search of the exit. Everyone commits to doing their best so that no one dies there. With the group divided, one team leaves on a reconnaissance mission, taking only what's necessary to avoid confrontations. Fix keeps Ilga stable, but his time is limited. The tension grows with enemies still at large, but the scouts trust the strategy of acting cautiously and quickly. The group agrees that operating in small numbers is better to avoid being noticed by monsters. They know even breathing or footsteps can attract attention. Although the base isn't completely safe, they must carry weapons for defense. One of the boys wants to bring more weapons, but understands that everyone needs to be ready, and the priority is maintaining mobility and discretion. The groups say goodbye, exchanging light teasing, showing growing confidence and bonds. After a brief, humorous conversation, the reconnaissance team sets off through the dungeon corridors, while the question of who built that place lingers in the air. Along the way, the group talks about the origin of artificial dungeons. It is mentioned that these structures exist in various parts of the continent and house relics from an advanced human civilization prior to the current one. There are theories that ancient magical technologies, such as metals that repel magic, might have come from a prehistoric civilization or even a demonic race from another continent. One of the youths strongly believes that a people with superior magical technology still exists somewhere in the world. The group continues debating ancient civilizations. One of the youths comments that the government likely prefers to hide the existence of these prehistoric civilizations, since admitting this could hurt national pride and weaken its authority. They conclude that rebellions could arise if people realized other nations or ancient civilizations were more powerful. Shortly after, they reach a new corridor, signaling the continuation of their exploration. During the conversation, a girl suggests they pray for help from the surface, but the boy questions who they should pray to. This raises a debate about faith. He asks if a god really exists, and she responds that it doesn't make sense for a master to depend on his disciples, implying that gods don't need human faith. The boy reflects that he also didn't believe in God in his previous life, while she explains that in the realm where they are, most people have no religion, and those who believe follow different deities. When the boy suggests praying, the girl sharply interrupts him, saying she doesn't know if God exists, but praying is all they can do. Suddenly, she senses something suspicious hidden outside the magical light's reach. While he sees nothing, she detects the threat and quickly prepares for combat, warning the group to stay alert. Goblins emerge from the shadows of the corridor, confirming what the girl had sensed earlier. With a confident smile, she points to the threat and says she was right. The others, seeing the situation, immediately prepare for battle. While the group is still assessing the situation, more goblins appear from behind, revealing they have fallen into a trap. The enemies used a siege tactic, surrounding everyone in a coordinated way. The trap was well planned. The goblins that had fled earlier were just waiting for the right moment to attack from all sides. Void is grabbed by a companion and thrown away from the combat zone, even against his will. Annoyed at being treated like a child, he complains, but the others insist he stays away and safe, as the situation gets more dangerous with the goblins advancing. While Kaimu and others discuss protecting Void, they make it clear the main goal is to protect Eltan. Void, however, refuses to accept being treated as weak. Even acknowledging he is now trapped in a child's body, he refuses to depend on others and runs to fight on his own, irritating companions who try to keep him safe. Void feels excited and relieved to finally be able to fight freely, something he hadn't done since his past life. With a smile on his face and fully immersed in action, he dives into combat enthusiastically, enjoying every sword movement and the feeling of freedom. Void starts attacking with precision and speed, focusing on Goblin's vital points, as his new body lacks brute strength. He recalls that in his past life, even with a strong physique, he couldn't compete in strength with ogres, cyclopes, and dragons. Therefore, he learned to compensate with technique and agility. Void remembers countless battles he faced in the past. He didn't trust brute force, but pure technique, a formless sword style, instinctive like a beast's. With precise moves, he injured his enemies, broke bones, cut flesh, and finished them off when targets slowed down. While Eltan was distracted in combat, a goblin surprises him and grabs him tightly, biting his shoulder. Another injured but still alive goblin threatens to attack him again. The girl screams desperately, telling him to retreat, but Eltan hesitates. Even wounded, he faces the monster determined not to back down. Despite being injured, Eltan counterattacks precisely, delivering a sure strike to the goblin that bit him. With a determined look and confident smile, he says he won't die over something so insignificant. His willpower keeps him firm even in danger. Even after being hurt, Eltan stands firm, surprising everyone with his attitude. He casually says no one needs to worry about him and that others should act as they wish. The others are shocked by his courage, while veterans acknowledge that, despite their age, the group has considerable experience. With the group formed by an exchange student with unique technique, a girl trained by a fierce general, and a street-fighting veteran, they position themselves ready for combat. United and experienced, they confidently declare that goblins are no match for them. After the battle, others are surprised by Elami's skill and ask where he learned to fight like that. He says he just copied Breeze's moves from reading books. Despite that, everyone recognizes his talent, especially considering his youth. One colleague reveals having studied at the Reen Knights Academy, where they learned Breeze's technique, noticing similarities in Elami's fighting style. During the conversation, Ujin reveals he practices the technique of the single sword that breaks the skies from a distant island. He explains this technique created swordsmen as skilled as the so-called sword saints. Elami shows interest and says he would like to incorporate this technique into his style. Ujin kindly agrees, suggesting a duel in the future. Then, there is a memory or mention of the legendary sword demons, powerful swordsmen from the east who gave rise to warriors of this level. The girl hugs Elami tightly and jealously, saying he is hers and she doesn't want him stolen. The boy complains, trying to free himself, saying he belongs to no one. Ujin tries to justify, saying they only talked out of fencing interest, but the girl won't listen. She showers him with compliments, says he is small, cute, and strong, and claims she wants to take him with her when she graduates. Elami, completely cornered, can only ask to be left alone. Void appears and interrupts yet another fight, grabbing Elami by the collar and pulling him from the girl's arms. She complains this always happens, while Ujin, surprised, feels saved and emotional. He asks if Void likes men or boys, but Void answers dryly that he's only interested in older women. Elami, disgusted by the situation, almost vomits. The girl then teases him, asking if he's jealous of her relationship with Elemi. Void criticizes the girl for interfering and making herself even more hated. She retorts that he acts like a goody two-shoes despite being a delinquent. Elemi tries to speak, but Void ignores him and continues reprimanding the girl, saying he had already warned her to be careful with Kaimu. The mood becomes tense, especially with another boy noting that Void is saying all this right in front of her. Miku angrily confronts Void, asking if he was talking behind her back. Void sarcastically replies that he isn't anymore. Then, he jabs that talking behind backs is a girl's thing, despite her appearance. She provokes back, wanting to know what he knows about her and saying she'd love to hear it. Void finishes by saying he's not interested in little girls, giving a cynical smile. They realize they have fallen deep into the dungeon and that arguing among themselves only makes things worse. The mood is tense, but Ujin firmly intervenes, saying they can't afford to fight at that moment. He suggests everyone stop, reminding them there are more urgent things to worry about. The group finds a mysterious door, and given the situation, Ujin suggests returning to regroup with the others. Everyone agrees, though reluctantly. Alimia watches the group and thinks that despite everything, they are strong enough to stay together, but something still seems to bother him. While cautiously walking down a dungeon corridor surrounded by strange fungi, tension rises. Miku observes silently, thoughtful, and with a closed expression, as if hiding something or about to make a decision. During a patrol, the group finds a devastating scene. An entire caravan was massacred on the battlefield. It's suspected that it was a troop of travelers unlucky enough to cross the path of the war. Without armor or weapons from known armies, it's impossible to know for sure who was responsible for the attack. A young orphan dancer was rejected by several institutions. The Knight's Order couldn't take her in, the orphanage was full, and she refused to be sent to a brothel. With no alternatives, she ended up working as a servant for a group, under the narrator's care. During training, the instructor teaches that perfect form matters less than surviving on the battlefield. He highlights that his style is formless, focused on adaptation. Meanwhile, a girl struggles to lift a heavy sword, and another watches admiringly, encouraged to try as well. Before another battle, the girl smiles excitedly holding her sword, even knowing the fight will be brutal. The instructor leads firmly, ordering to move forward and encouraging everyone to survive. The group responds, determined, ready to fight. During the battle, Lily appears unexpectedly on the battlefield, surprising her master. That day's fight was a disaster, but in the end, everyone laughed together, remembering the situation, creating a moment of relaxation around the campfire that night. Over the years, Lily stopped being protected by others and became independent. Even though she was scolded, she insisted on following her master into battles. This hindered his progress, but looking back, he recognizes the situation was so chaotic it was almost funny. The narrator regrets that he was the one who taught Lily to kill. She was young, the same age as his current peers, when she took a life for the first time. He laments having brought her to the battlefield and admits he turned her into an assassin. While everyone blocks the lower entrance to prevent monster invasion, Elamia is asked if he is tired. He explains he was just resting to regain strength, as he didn't have enough energy to fight earlier. Ujin, seeing this, teases him, saying that if he's only bluffing, he can stay seated because Group 3 is about to leave on an expedition. Elamia decides not to rest, remembering he was the one who put Lily in the battlefield. Even though warned not to overexert himself since he's still a child, he insists he can't afford to stop. Seeing this, Lily smiles and teases him back, telling him not to hold back. The group then moves together through the tunnel, determined to face whatever comes. The group continues exploring, alert to possible enemies. Elamia asks if there is any presence nearby, trusting Lily's instinct. She shows a natural ability to sense presences accurately, even surpassing her master, who used to detect enemies in his time as the Sword Saint. Elamia, a bit awkward, tries to praise Lily, but she just smiles and tells him not to worry about it. While exploring the area, Lily warns they're being followed by something annoying and suggests they better run. Soon, they realize the enemy is a slime, a dangerous creature that can slip into any body opening and suffocate its victim. Elamia reacts surprised upon recognizing it. The slime is described as slow and unintelligent, but its body absorbs poisons from plants and moss, making it toxic. Though the general danger is low, for a swordsman, it is quite a nuisance. During the confrontation, a slime surprises Elamia with an attack, putting the group on alert. The group notices physical attacks are useless against the slime, as it can split and even damage blades with its poison. Also, the victim's body is completely dissolved, including their clothes. While Elamia reacts exaggeratedly, calling the slime a pervert, others note she seems to have completely lost her sense of danger. Elamia ignores the risk entirely, charging alone at the slime. Even warned by others, she refuses to retreat and provokes the creature, overconfident in her skills. The group moves forward while talking. One of the boys praises the companion's strategy but calls her Ryuka-chan, which she rejects, saying that name is too feminine in her country. Despite the teasing, she shares a plan to deal with the slime. With everyone focused, she decides to pick up the pace. As they advance, Ryuka suddenly stops, warning they're about to enter a dangerous area. Ahead, the group faces a huge hole in the ground caused by a monster. They realize it's a passage to the dungeon's lower level. The group reaches a new area with many goblin corpses, a feast for the slimes. They hope this will delay the monsters. A comment about Ka's directional instinct causes laughter and even an unexpected compliment. But the peace is short-lived. Another slime appears, and enemies are close behind. The group carefully crosses an unstable zone. Ryuka warns about the risk of collapse and falling to lower floors. While others joke around, he stresses they can't afford delays or mistakes. One slime continues to chase them, raising tension as they cautiously cross the dangerous area. The girl firmly declares she likes Eltan and proposes marriage. He reacts calmly, asking her to be more serious, while another comments that despite her cold words, she still holds his clothes. Then the group spots a slimy creature crawling across the stone floor. They watch as the creature disappears into the ground, and one of the boys admits he couldn't do that. Another steps forward, telling them to watch, surprising everyone by using a skill called Void to pass through the floor and lift debris with ease. The others are shocked, saying that's the kind of thing a knight would do, not a simple student. The boy advances determinedly against the slimy creature, using his magic to slam it hard onto the ground. The creature screams in pain as it starts sinking into the depths, hit directly by the attack. After defeating the creature, the boy confidently states the fight is over. However, noticing the silence of the others, he finds their reaction strange. His companions, completely surprised, are shocked by the power he showed. As the group moves forward, one of the girls suddenly stops, panic on her face. She whispers, "They're here," clearly frightened. The others notice her strange reaction and ask what's wrong, not understanding the sudden fear. The group realizes too late they are being watched. A mysterious smiling figure spies on them from above, revealing that they are under surveillance. Tension rises as the four look upward, shocked by the revelation. The boys stare at the hole in the ceiling, trying to see what's above, but it's too dark. One feels something breathing up there. Confused, they wonder why the creature hasn't attacked yet, speculating it might have been watching the whole time. Doubt grows. Could they be manipulated for some unknown reason? The group decides to put distance between themselves and the enemy. Suddenly, a loud noise is heard on the fourth floor, causing panic as everyone runs to escape the imminent danger. They debate whether to worry but agree. The enemy is still far and likely not chasing them yet. They discuss the path to Ujin's base and decide to pick up the pace. Meanwhile, one boy tries to climb down from another's shoulder but is scolded and forced to stay, showing a light dynamic among them. They reach a place where other team members greet them. Seneca Magus officially introduces herself as the group leader, while her companions show familiarity with the third squad and ask if she found the stairs to the upper levels. The group confirms the monster appeared and decides to leave the situation for Ujin's base to handle. The youngest boy reflects that, although excluded from meetings for being a child, he feels the combo of Ujin's void skill and Miku's detection is better than any night squad. Still, they don't believe they can defeat that creature. The group notices the monster's arrival and the situation spiraling out of control. The leader orders others to move debris, while he and some colleagues retreat to lower levels, planning to buy time for the rescue team to carry Ilga on a stretcher. Seneca takes command, saying they don't need to remove the debris because the fourth group found another hidden path. She orders them to flee that way, while others confirm they explored the entire place and worry if the enemy can close in quickly. The group realizes the monster is approaching, apparently enjoying itself. Seneca organizes the escape, splitting teams. The first and fourth groups escape via the new path. The second cares for the injured Ilga, and the others protect the healer. Seneca promises to stay behind and asks if the third group can keep up. She gives quick orders for everyone to move. The group urges Seneca to flee too, saying no one else can lead the escape, and that someone who looks weak would only hinder the fight. Seneca, though hurt, insists they plan for her to stay and fulfill this mission from the start. The boy interrupts Seneca, telling her to calm down and saying he'll order her to stay with the third group. He won't allow her to run away. He explains only he and Ujin seem capable of properly leading the team. He can't risk the others' lives alone, as knights don't understand this kind of responsibility, being cowardly and irresponsible at the same time. With a determined smile, the boy declares he rejects traditional knighthood. Seneca recognizes these words as typical of the Sword Saint Bryce. The boy explains Bryce, known as the Sword Saint, was a mercenary who earned many military merits but never accepted the knight title granted by the king. He was of common origin, a free warrior who challenged nobles and had total autonomy in battle. The king then decided to grant him a new title, recognizing that freedom and independence. He adds Bryce ignored the knight's code, and that was what let him survive long enough to become the Sword Saint. He also must have had sword skills superior to many others. Meanwhile, Seneca warns to hurry the escape because danger is near. Seneca praises Elamia's maturity, who is only 10 years old, saying he's cool. Then she gives the last instruction. No one in the third group may leave their class until their limit, and while holding the monster back, they must follow her desperately to escape. Elamia agrees and prepares to act quickly. The group confirms they will flee and avoids internal fights. Seneca orders Orenkheim to go first with the youngest boy. Suddenly, the monster appears behind them, catching them by surprise. The boy uses his shield to block the monster's attack, being thrown back by the force. The group watches worried as he gets up and prepares a counterattack using the Void skill, destroying part of the floor behind the monster. Elton attacks the enemy with full force, while others shout worriedly. However, he soon realizes his blade isn't cutting, and the enemy smiles, completely unharmed, making the situation even more desperate. Despite being at a disadvantage, Elton decides to attack the monster, hoping to at least reduce its offensive power. Determined, he aims for one of the creature's fingers, ready to sacrifice himself if necessary, while his allies keep running desperately. Ujin charges the attack determinedly, trying to hit the creature. However, it reacts quickly and strikes him hard. Others shout his name, alarmed, as he is thrown back, showing he was seriously injured. In a desperate move, the two allies join forces and launch a direct attack on the creature. With courage and strength, they hit the enemy full force, surprising it at the moment of impact. Ujin is badly hurt even after trying to retreat to lessen the impact. He realizes that even a graze hit with extreme force. Meanwhile, Seneca watches shocked and worried as the creature advances to attack Orenkheim. The creature jumps forcefully and attacks, breaking the ground around. Seneca reacts scared but tries to counterattack, noticing her strikes have no effect. Orenkheim watches everything and concludes the attack. As expected, didn't work. He prepares to try another approach. Orenkheim changes strategy and determinedly prepares his special technique, Void Cut-style rock trajectory. He advances with speed and confidence, ready to try breaking the creature's defense with this new attack. The creature dodges Orenkheim's attack, having trusted only its defense until now. This surprises Elamia, who notices the enemy's change in strategy. Seeing the danger, he yells for Ujin to dodge quickly. Void attacks the creature angrily, but the blow has no effect. Even activating his skill, nothing happens. Confused and injured, he gets frustrated. Meanwhile, the others decide to flee, desperately searching for stairs to the upper floors. As they run, the group hopes to find instructors or even the war princess to regroup. However, upon reaching the stairs to the upper floors, they find the iron door locked. Elamia explains these doors only open as the curriculum progresses, leaving everyone frustrated and trapped. Injured and desperate, Void feels there's no way out as enemies close in. The other students pound on the locked door, begging for help, asking to go home, and fearing for their lives. Elamia, with tears in his eyes, thinks it's all over. The mood is total despair. Elamia looks around desperately. Void is wounded, Ujin unconscious, Miku at her limit, and his main weapon broken. Feeling powerless in this hopeless situation, he wonders what he can do while everyone is trapped before the closed door. In the midst of despair, Elamia has a mysterious vision of a hooded man who calls him by his real name, Arami Outlingham. The figure tells him it's not yet his time to die and orders him to open his eyes. Inspired, Elamiya remembers there is still something he wants to try. Elamiya approaches Ujin, who is injured, and asks to borrow his sword. Even knowing that improper use of a katana can break the blade, he says there is no other choice. If nothing is done, they will all be defeated. Determined, he decides to act with what he has. Ujin, kneeling and hurt, gives detailed instructions on how to properly use the katana, explaining that a master can cut anything if the technique is precise. Elamiya is surprised to be trusted with something so important, questioning if they really believe in him despite being just a child. Ujin confirms, showing he's betting everything on this last chance. Elamiya offers to face the enemy since Void and Ujin are incapacitated. Though he admits it's a risky bet, he promises to do his best. Seneca, desperate, shouts for him to promise he'll come back alive, recalling a similar conversation with Lily, who also showed concern. Elamiya grips the sword, noticing it's big and a bit heavy for him. Still, he stands firm and says he'll find a way to handle the situation, determined to move forward. Elamiya examines the katana and explains that, unlike straight swords used to cut with weight and strength, the katana is thin, sharp, and made for precise cutting techniques. Its lightweight improves speed and accuracy. He wonders if he can use the katana now, knowing even a strong warrior like Braze would struggle with this weapon. Even aware of the difficulties, Elamiya decides that doesn't matter. The important thing is to cut the creature. He will enter combat without a fixed form, trying to follow the enemy's movements to land his attack. Elamiya advances quickly, attacking by surprise to leave no time for the enemy to react. However, his strike is too superficial and fails to cut the creature, frustrating him as he realizes his imitation of the technique was not enough. Elamiya manages a thin cut on the creature's skin, almost imperceptible but enough to leave a mark. He decides to keep making repeated cuts like that, knowing it's the only way to reach the enemy with the katana. Elamiya wounds the creature, which feels pain, and tries to react violently. He keeps attacking despite suffering strong blows. But despite the effort, the creature defends itself, and the attack doesn't have the expected effect, leaving Elamiya frustrated. Void, gravely injured, sees Elamiya attacking and shouts for him to continue, showing support and hope. The entire group watches anxiously, encouraging Elamiya to keep fighting, believing he is their last chance. Elamiya holds the katana tightly, feeling the support of his friends. He declares bravely that he's not alone, renewing his determination to keep fighting the creature. Elamiya seizes an opportunity and strikes the creature with full force, causing great damage and making it scream in pain. The comrades cheer the final blow, urging him to kill the enemy at that crucial moment. As Elamiya attacks the creature, it lands a powerful blow to his face, severely wounding him. The group is shocked seeing the young man bleeding, intensifying the tension and danger of the battle. Elamiya is grabbed by the creature, which holds him by the neck, frightening everyone around. Even injured, he faces the enemy with determination, calling it a monster and showing no fear despite the imminent danger. Remembering his motivation to save his friends, Elamiya fights against the fear and hatred he feels toward the creature. He resists, and the creature, in a tense moment, orders them all to live, revealing a surprising side in that desperate situation. Elamiya manages a powerful strike that hits the creature, forcing it to retreat. He falls to the ground exhausted while his friends shout his name, worried about his state after the attack. Elamiya falls wounded after the attack, while the group reflects on Braze's wish to have a family and the possibility of Elamiya being embraced as part of it, even amid battle and pain. The characters lie on the ground injured. One thinks of reincarnation as a miracle that only happens once. She realizes Kilps was Braze's disciple and didn't want to turn Lily into the Sword Saint, but now understands that Lily is that person. Lily reveals herself as the true and legitimate Sword Saint. Lily reveals her true form as Instructor Ituka, the genuine and original Sword Saint. The exhausted but relieved group is rescued by reinforcements arriving at the scene. They finally find safety after the intense battle. They discover the iron door keys on the third floor were different from the dungeon entrance keys, and this was no accident. Despite difficulties, all of Class 1 survived the disaster. Lily did not inherit Braze's brute strength, but compensated by mastering a new power, as she is formless. Lily Atuka represents the perfect form of the ideal fencing style they sought. Inside her is something stronger than blood, a legacy passed down. Even with weak legs, she remains firm to face the battle. Lily says that no matter how much he hates it, she will do to him what her master did to her. Even though he is still a child, she won't go easy, and tells him not to play around with it. Lily asks if he prefers to be carried in front like a princess or on her back. She says she's been in both situations with Braze. He blushes, saying that line was taken from a book. He accepts to be carried on her back. They are back at school after the dungeon accident, and Class 1 has 2 days off. He is recovering well, even after the eye injury. He explains he wasn't badly hurt because he dodged and redirected the attack, imitating Ujin. Another character jokes that the drink he's having looks like lake water. They joke around, calling each other stray dog and alley cat. He explains the drink isn't lake water but matcha tea. The boy comments the parry technique he used to dodge. Imitating Ujin is a basic body parry, popular among smaller, less physically gifted swordsmen like himself. He compares it to Braze's style, which used brute force to push the enemy. He says he only managed to land the hit because Void stopped the enemy's movement, and doubts he could hit a moving target otherwise. Another praises the technique, saying it's different from the Twisted Knights in their country, and that it's nice to be praised by a swordsman from another school. Then they ask how he is, saying his face looks like a zombie's, and he explains a healing instructor cast magic on him all night. He also says Ilga is in the bed next to him, and will need more time to recover. They talk about the monster and learn it is a homunculus, an artificial human. It's explained that a homunculus is a human, not born from a mother's womb but in a vial. Though it doesn't yet exist in their country, it does in the Republic of Egil. They discuss Miku's father, a count who governs a city on the border with the Republic. Miku knows more about the front line than they do in the capital, especially Lily. With military connections, the instructors may also suspect this. They say if these monsters were mass-produced, the kingdom would be easily destroyed. But in 10 years since reincarnation and the battle's interruption, monsters like that appeared. They chat casually about the future. One says that, as expected from the future border count, they should marry soon after graduation. Another replies that future doesn't exist. The mood grows serious, and Void thanks them, saying that without their help, he would be dead and the damage worse. Then he says he'll go back first. Ujin tries to thank them but is shy. Another says he's a shy boy but thinks he is genuinely grateful. They keep talking and laughing, saying Ujin is getting embarrassed by thanking too much. Everyone agrees they were saved thanks to him. Ujin invites Lily to join him for a meal, saying it's no fun eating alone. Lily accepts, remembering the night he took her in. She used to sit apart, not knowing where she belonged. Now they are together, and Lily says she didn't want to bother others. Ujin promises Lily he will keep taking care of her, just like his master did. He extends his hand to her, showing he's by her side for whatever she needs. They tease each other, with Lily saying Ujin is trying to get revenge, and he replies that she's the one who messed everything up. On the second day of rest, Ujin is weak, feeling like a twig. Lily advises him not to overdo it, to avoid harming his growth, reminding him that arm and leg size matters in fencing. She tells him to focus on technique, as it will strengthen his body naturally. Ujin complains about being treated like a child, but Lily insists that technique and stretching are important, regardless of strength. They talk about his change, now resembling the young Lily from the past. Lily jokes she could be a mother to him, leaving Ujin frustrated. She says goodbye so he can rest well. Ujin admits he wanted to be spoiled, surprising Lily. The teacher teases him about his reaction, finding his blushing face cute, but quickly says she's only joking. Lily reveals she thinks she will never marry, but that living together wouldn't be a problem. She doesn't care about having children, as she's not the type for a family. Ujin gets annoyed, complaining that Braze always passes useless stuff onto him. A boy walks calmly through the empty cafeteria before classes start, thinking lying down all day would only make him weak. Suddenly, he hears a commotion. When he turns, a girl runs toward him asking for help, while a group of girls chase her excitedly. They surround him, saying he looks like a girl, and invite him out after school, causing even more confusion. He just watches, finding it annoying. The boy tries to escape the girls surrounding him but ends up asking a friend for help, who refuses, telling him to handle it himself. He tries to run but is cornered and surrounded by more curious girls, who start complimenting his skills and asking about his fighting technique. They admire him for fighting a monster alone and being small but very strong, while he keeps desperately begging for help. The boy is surrounded by female students who start calling him Lord Void and praise him for risking himself to protect everyone, saying he was as amazing as a paladin. One excited girl even confesses her feelings for him, but he coldly refuses, saying he has no interest in spoiled girls and tells her to come back in 10 years. A classmate wonders if that wouldn't make them cry, but admits he was pretty stylish. Even with Void's cold reply, the girls remain completely enchanted by him, sighing with admiration. Another boy thanks him for saving them, along with the teacher. In the end, everyone realizes they're already late and rushes to class, leaving the two behind in the cafeteria. The boy thinks about everything he's experienced since entering the academy. The sword techniques he learned, the trustworthy comrades he met, and the encounter with Lily. He feels satisfied with this phase of life, saying he's glad he came. But among these memories, a mysterious figure watches from afar, hinting that something is about to change. Elsewhere, a man arrives to escort an important figure called Your Majesty. The king seems excited to learn his destination is the Reen Knight Academy. The scene suggests something big is about to happen with his arrival there.